You got over about 44,000 Australian dollars through the Kickstarter campaign.
Buying a hardware unit or subscribing to one of our educational plans and all that. So that's a secondary thing. What we believe is empowering the future generation with the knowledge that we have created is the main part that we are very passionate about.
Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we have Migara Amithodhana, who's the co-founder of MagicBit, which we will go into a lot more detail today, as well as an alumnus of the University of Moratuwa and the University of Colombo, and of course coming from Sri Lanka like myself. So before we get into it, Migara, how are you doing? How are you keeping?
Hi, Abdul. So I'm doing fine, and we are basically coming out of the pandemic, and everything is happening great. And yeah, we are doing well, and hope you're doing the same.
Likewise, thank you very much. So before we dive into MagicBit, which I believe we have a lot to discuss about, perhaps it'll be great if you could perhaps set the stage and maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself as well. What kind of led you to become the person you are today? What are those key milestones, those key aspects in your journey that help you eventually create MagicBit and have its own story? I think that might really help us all understand and essentially set the stage for what we're going to be discussing about.
Yeah, so basically, I did my undergraduate studies in engineering. So I majored in electronics and telecommunication engineering in Sri Lanka at University of Moratuwa. So after the graduation, I worked in the industry, mainly in the ICT industry, for like 6-7 years. And all these undergraduate friends we had back then, and we usually discuss about creating new stuff, and we were involved in doing certain projects. And we are in a way, we were kind of stupid enough to think that we can create like Silicon Valley technology even in a tiny country like Sri Lanka.
Well, you have.
So, yeah.
You have.
So basically that was kind of the inspiration that we had. And on the other hand, we wanted to take the technology more into the community and create technology more accessible and available to everyone. So that was the passion that we all had. So in line with that, we created few resources at first. And I think this initiative came as an extension of that after some time. And since we were doing some commercial projects as well, we identified that there's a knowledge gap mainly, and there are some barriers in the society which we perceived as a problem to enter into the technical innovation space mainly for everyone. So that is how this inspiration came, and that's how we started all this.
All right, brilliant. So it's essentially that time in university kind of really helped to that really brainstorm and just casual conversations with friends kind of helped establish the framework for what you all eventually went on to do, and that is MagicBit.
Yes,
so
indeed,
I think you touch on very important points there, Migara, like how some of these casual connections, casual conversations really help to foster and foster that intellectual like curiosity amongst yourselves, and eventually like leading on to great things. And what I particularly like is like how you all aligned in that vision to making these tools accessible to everyone. So I think that's something very commendable. So perhaps to everyone else who does not know about MagicBit, some people may be familiar with it, some people maybe kind of heard about it. So I think it will be of great value if you perhaps introduce what MagicBit is, and like I'm sure that I won't be able to do justice to it. So I believe it's like you're the best person to really perhaps introduce MagicBit. Tell us what it is about and what it can do, and most importantly, why is it important?
Yes. So to tell you honestly, how we started off the project was creating a mini computer or a small
Mm,
device which is called MagicBit, and it's a small hexagonal shape mini computer which is roughly
mm,
the size of your palm, and it can be connected to any computer and it can be programmed. So it can
mm,
be programmed even with minimum knowledge about programming. So our idea was to encourage people who are non-tech savvy people, so
mm.
encourage them to do innovations with technology, because one of the problems that we saw mainly is usually even in the students, only few students in a class are doing this sort of stuff and others are not interested. So at a later stage they pursue on different careers,
Mm.
and they have very minimum knowledge how to use technology in certain other areas. So we firmly believe that now we are engineers and we don't know anything about agriculture, but
Mm.
if we have a person who is in agriculture and he has some certain knowledge about technology and how to implement it, I think they can solve the problems better. So for that
Yeah.
reason, we made it very simple to use and simple to learn, and very so basically all the units in MagicBit, all the sensors and everything are plug and play, and
Mm.
even a person without programming knowledge can start off with block programming. So basically visual coding we introduced.
Very user friendly, essentially.
Yes, very user friendly, and we try to simplify the learning circle as much as possible. So
Mm.
even a person with minimum knowledge can start it off. So what we were trying to introduce to this equation was the easiness and the affordability when it comes to
Okay, very
technical
important. Yeah,
innovations.
I think that's a very
Yeah.
important
So
point as well.
we started off with this mini computer called MagicBit, and we transformed into a startup with that product, and now we have a few other hardware products, and we have developed the software, the mobile apps, the content. So essentially now we have developed an innovation ecosystem with all the components that we have developed, and
Mm.
now we have a user community, and we have partnered with schools, education institutes
Mm.
now from different countries to deliver programs and design courses, uh, sometimes or sometimes design free content available for the students. So this is what we are doing as of now. As a company, as a startup, we are developing this whole ecosystem for innovation with all the hardware, software, content, mobile apps, and everything. And we started that journey with that small device. So I think our main target is to empower the future generation, mainly the students, with this
Mm.
knowledge. So there's plenty of free resources they can refer to in our website and in our videos and everything. And I think buying a hardware unit or subscribing to one of our educational plans and all that, so that's a secondary thing. What we believe is empowering the future generation with the knowledge that we have created is the main part that we are very
Yeah,
passionate
yeah.
about.
I think first and foremost, Megar, I think that's a very, very commendable goal and vision, and especially I believe that set of values that a team has in order to really give these tools, make them accessible to everyone is something very, very commendable. And I think personally, I think that a big congratulations to yourself and your team for really putting this out there and making this available to everyone. So I would like to really extend a very genuine congratulations to your team, because there's not a lot of people who would really address these types of problems. So like amazing stuff, Megara, like seriously amazing stuff. So while like you touched on several points that I wanted to actually discuss with you today, but before we really come into that, so one is, for example, the funding campaign that you touched on slightly, the one is the courses, we come to all of that. But before we come to that, Megara, uh, I think it will be quite interesting to know how we all took it from that, bunch of colleagues in university talking about this idea, and to eventually that idea becoming MagicBit. Can you walk us through that process, Megar? How did that happen? Who helped you all in that process? how did like you all work with co-founders? How did you find your co-founders? Just walk us through that process, how that initial phases happened from that idea stage to eventually say having a MVP in your hands.
The co-founders of MagicBit are myself, Anuruddha, and Akalanka. So we three were batchmates at the University of Moratuwa. And even before this project, we have done some commercial projects in Sri Lanka, especially into IoT and introducing this sort of new technology into the industries. And while we are doing that, we had this idea of creating something to promote technology for students and for future generation mainly. And once we had this idea, I think we did couple of iterations by brainstorming and also coming up with different prototypes
All
and
this in while
refining the
in university,
design.
right?
No, so this is after the universities. I think
Okay.
this was around, I think 2017-18 period. So we
Okay.
were while we were working in the industry, we
Hmm.
were actually developing the prototypes and doing different
Understood.
iterations and all that. Then we were supported by a few government grants as well, because in Sri Lanka there are some government grants for early stage startups we can apply, and we got certain grants like that for MagicBit at the early stage for
Yeah.
commercialization of our product. And then we started producing in small batches and again refining the product, and we used the grant money and our own capital, our own money, to fund the company and commercial produce the units. And then with every iteration we refine the product, and that's how we came up with the most robust design that we currently use. And so I think that cycle itself took us around, I think, 1.5 years to
Okay.
commercially produce it and sort out everything, because in Sri Lanka, this Sri Lanka is not known for producing this sort of electronics or this sort of devices. So we have to solve the logistics issues and the sometimes quality compliances and all that,
Right.
especially since we were targeting the foreign audiences for this product from the early stage, and we were very much concerned about selecting components and coming up to agreements with assemblers and all
Right.
that. And we also wanted to make this as a Sri Lankan product,
Right.
and
Right.
that's how we and also thinking about the scalability and everything. At the early stage, we did hand soldering and we assembled this product by hand, and soon we realized that we cannot scale it up, and we went to an agreement with the Japanese Sri Lankan electronics manufacturer right here in Sri
Right.
Lanka. So currently we are producing in agreement with them this product, and it goes as a Sri Lankan product, and we get the raw components from different countries, but we do the assembly and the final production here in Sri
Manufactured and
Lanka.
assembly in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Brilliant. I think you touch on like, I think that gives a very good gist of what happened there. And I think it's very important, particularly that you touched on, how that amount of support is actually available in Sri Lanka. So, Megara, how would you advise, say, any aspiring Sri Lankan entrepreneurs as to where they could look for support in terms of, say, for example, based on some of the support that the MagicBit team received, Megara?
So I think in terms of the support, there are a few schemes available in Sri Lanka, and I think there are several levels of support that we can receive. Like first of all, the grants and financial benefits, and I think that any startup can get from ICTA Spiralation Program, and
Yeah.
there are different accelerator programs. There are accelerators attached to Hatch and John Keel's X, and Sri Lanka Inventors Commission has a grant scheme for new innovations. So there are so many opportunities like that. Plus, I think in terms of the mentorship and accelerators, where they provide the networking opportunity and more advisors and mentorship through experienced people. So there
Yeah.
are many programs like that, like as I earlier mentioned, the Spiralation, John Keel's X. I think Good Life X has one, and there are some accelerators attached to universities, and we were also
Yeah.
part of University of Moratuwa Business Linkage Center,
Yeah.
and there are a few accelerators attached to universities as well. Plus, I think now there are many accelerators even available in other countries. So we were part of few accelerators from other countries like Misfits in India,
All right.
and we actually got an opportunity to work with T Hub in India,
All
but
right.
we did not continue that with T Hub due to some time restrictions. And we recently had a acceleration. We participated in an acceleration program in Berlin called conducted by an organization called NPACT.
Yeah.
So I think right now there are more opportunities like that, and I honestly believe that innovations, commercializing innovations, and all that does not have to be only a responsibility of the government or someone else. I think if we can address a true need in the community or in the society, and if it really has a commercial value, and if we can hit the correct price point, I
Yeah.
think even we can bootstrap even with the MVP. So I
Yeah.
think that is my understanding, and that is my personal belief.
Yeah. I think amazing stuff there, Migara. And like based on just how you painted the picture, I think it's quite clear that first and foremost, the entrepreneurial landscape in Sri Lanka is changing, which is of course amazing. And secondly, and I believe most importantly, that some level of support is available in the country. So I think it's equally the responsibility of aspiring entrepreneurs, startups, to really look out for that support, because that support is essentially available should they look at the right places, like just like the some of the organizations that you mentioned. So it's great that you painted that picture, and I believe like MagicBit is a good example that uh, aspiring startups could look up to in terms of, okay, this is how for example tech-based startups could go this pathway, these are the types of support that is available. So it's amazing that you painted that picture as well. uh, so with that being said, Migara, I found the courses that you described about quite interesting as well. We'll come back to that. But before that, something that really piqued my interest was that Kickstarter campaign that the team ran. And I believe that got a lot of eyeballs really looking at MagicBit and talking about it. So walk us through that. What really got you all to launch your Kickstarter campaign? And I believe you got over about 44,000 Australian dollars through the Kickstarter campaign, I believe. So help us paint that picture there, Migara. Like, did
Uh,
that come to you all as a shock, or was it kind of expected, or did you all already know that that type of demand existed before, and perhaps
uh,
even during the Kickstarter campaign?
yeah, so actually, so this Kickstarter campaign is one of the things that we had in our mind for, I think, couple of years.
Okay.
And we actually planned this crowdfunding campaign because when we are taking a Sri Lankan product mainly to the world, there are different methods that we can try out. So
Yeah.
maybe we can run a huge marketing campaign, which of course cost a lot, right?
Mm.
And we can and we can maybe look for certain partner opportunities and have different channels likewise. But
Yeah.
to create that buzz and to see which are the markets that we can gain some traction, which segments in the world, or which countries, which regions will have the most attraction for a certain product like this. So
Yeah.
we need to test the market. I think when we are testing the market also, we had several options, like maybe launching it on e-commerce,
Yeah.
or maybe running a concept like crowdfunding. And
Yeah.
I think the reason that we chose crowdfunding was, now all these platforms have a dedicated audience, and they have a worldwide audience as well,
Yeah.
and they are quite good in launching innovative products. And we actually studied the performance of similar or nearly similar products in the
Mm.
past 1 to 2 years period, and we knew
Yeah.
that we have the target audience there in this platform
Yeah.
called Kickstarter in this case.
So basically,
And
do your homework.
yeah, so I think it was, and since we didn't have anyone to refer to here in Sri Lanka running a Kickstarter campaign before, I think for us, it was like a 10-month to 12-month learning cycle
Yeah,
to get to
certainly.
the point where we launched the campaign. So we actually launched it, and we got the support from most of even the organizations and professional bodies in Sri Lanka, like the ICTA,
Hmm.
SLASCOM, and FITIs, everyone. I think everyone in the industry and the organizations, everyone supported us to make this campaign a success. And
And
even,
very successfully so as well.
yeah, so, and in the middle of the campaign, I think one of the uh, one of the members of the Kickstarter team itself. So they saw this campaign, and they saw traffic is coming from a new country, and they were keen about our campaign. And suddenly they ordered us, which they called Projects We Love badge. So usually they
Hmm.
give this to only selected projects, which actually one of their staff picks. So they were
Hmm.
really keen on this new project coming out from a never heard island. And so I think that helped us to create the traction in the other countries, because
Yeah,
after the Kickstarter campaign we got some partnerships, and up to now with the Kickstarter campaign and everything, we have shipped our products to over 30 countries from Sri Lanka.
amazing,
So I
amazing.
think going through that cycle, learning the logistics and everything, I think that was quite an experience for us. And I think we are ever grateful for all our backers. Actually, when we are running a Kickstarter, we have no commercial product to show to others, especially in the other countries, and they don't have any reference as well. They just trust the stuff that we are putting in front of them. So we are ever grateful to them for making this project a success.
Yeah, there you go. Big shout out to Kickstarter as well. So
Yeah.
you touched on very important points there, Megala. Like, I believe through that campaign, like the team essentially not only got that funding that was required to take those next steps, but also got free marketing through the process as well. So, especially to everyone out there, crowdfunding is a very viable option should the right means, and of course, like your team very likely did as well, should the right homework be done before actually launching the campaign.
Yeah.
So one of the points again that you touched on was how when launching the campaign, and how that mentorship helps as well. You touched on this, I believe, somewhere earlier, on especially when you all are receiving that support, how mentorship helps you all guide the team, yourself and the team, in taking those next steps. But just walk us through what sort of how mentorship really helped you all in this journey, because certainly having someone to help, having someone to talk to, I'm sure helps in more ways than one. So help us, or walk me through that process, Migara. Who were perhaps a couple of key individuals or teams that really helped you all in taking those like small steps in this journey, like as you all of course progress further as well.
Yeah. So when it comes to mentorship and everything, I think from the beginning we were quite using our network everywhere here in Sri Lanka, with the Sri Lanka, maybe it could be with the Sri Lanka Inventors Commission, or it could be with the University of Moratuwa, and with the SLASCOM, or with ICTA. So actually, we work with all these organizations in parallel while we are running the institution, while we are running the company. So I think so that network helped us to create the buzz around, and
Hmm.
also that network effect helped us to get mentors. And
Yeah.
when we are doing a project, and when people see the success in a project, and
Hmm.
when some of them share a similar vision, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they naturally attract to that. A
Yeah.
good example would be, I think, our former vice chancellor at University of Moratuwa, Professor Malik Singh, who is one of the board directors of many companies in Sri Lanka, and he's a chairman of multiple companies. So
Yeah.
he recently reached out to me, and so he was fascinated about this project, and he was invited for a certain event, and he wanted to showcase MagicBit as an example
Yeah.
of taking the education to the next level,
Yeah.
even in Sri Lanka as a tool, right? So I think that networking effect eventually helped us to get very influential people, as well as some people who are experienced in the startup space and the industry. So we
Certainly.
got their advice always, and we got the feedback from them, especially both positive and negative.
Yeah.
And we appreciated everyone to give us very honest feedback, because
Yeah.
we were not ready to accept very sugar coated comments. So we were actually honestly expecting comments from people, look here, this don't work out actually. So that sort of
Yeah.
comments are were much appreciated by our team. And I think because of that, we managed to get feedback from so many parties and individuals. Especially, I think we were actually a part of the Sri Lankan startup ecosystem. So I think
Mm.
through that network also we got the advice and feedback from fellow founders. I think
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
only doing a product or an innovation, running as a startup, and that is also a challenging task. So that help us to grow to the next level and gradually increase the level of our business. And yes, so eventually this mentorship and the support from other parties was much helpful for us to come to the present stage.
Super stuff there, Mega. I think especially how you mentioned how that networking really helped you all create that ripple effect and in a way connect to more people that who really could really support your project. I want to touch on something that you just mentioned here, Mega. How you all, I feel this is perhaps underappreciated a lot. The fact that how you all were really looking for honest feedback rather than sugar coated feedback. So, especially among entrepreneurs, yes, while everyone is really looking to take their product or service forward, feedback is something that is talked about a lot. Uh, so Migara, I was a bit fascinated on how you mentioned on how your team was particularly looking for this negative feedback rather than any sugar-coated feedback. So, like we know that entrepreneurs really look for feedback when to improve their MVPs and take it from one level to another. So, but on the same note, a lot of people get demotivated when they get negative feedback. So, how did you all create that mindset where you all were essentially looking for this negative feedback in order to really improve your product, whereas and while not essentially getting demotivated by any setbacks? Like, walk us through that, Migar.
To tell you honestly, I think every time, sometimes when we hear some negative feedback about us, it we don't feel great on us, to tell you honestly. But I think after some time, we came to a realization when we look back, uh, that that person might have said the right thing, right?
Mm,
So I think every time when I look back now, I feel in that way. And I think now when we were initially pitching for investors, or maybe for certain awards or
yeah,
certain panels and everyone, I think we have received such feedback. And every time when we receive such feedback, we were actually open-minded, and we honestly looked back and uh, uh, went back and discussed with our team that where what went wrong actually, and
yeah,
what we could have done better to avoid this feedback from this person.
mm,
So maybe how we can plan it out to avoid this sort of a feedback in the future.
yeah,
So I think that is the mindset that we all had. And I think since maybe it could be, I think it could happen because all of our founders now, we are in our 30s, married and all, having kids. So we are not very young founders when we were starting this. I
mm,
think maybe we come to that stage even in our life with that maturity, and we
mm,
all of us got some corporate experience as well.
yeah,
So we were not actually fresh graduates kind of thing. So we all of were engaged in companies, mainly in the
mm,
either in the managerial level or in the technical level. So
Right.
we had that maturity to, I think, absorb that sort of a feedback and get the best out of it. I
Right.
think, and honestly, I have appreciated some of the people later on for giving us negative feedback.
Yeah.
And when sometimes when a person gives us a negative feedback, sometimes they give us that negative feedback with the honest intention of pushing us further
Right.
with our limits. Because I remember we participated in 2019 uh, Asia Pacific IT conference in Vietnam, and one of the Japanese professors there, so he asked these very rude questions, and and basically which led us to panic a bit, and
Right.
he openly criticized about some design aspects of that and everything.
Right.
So after the Q&A session and everything, later on I met him and I asked, can you give us a honest feedback? I really value your inputs, and don't you see anything good about our product or about this? So I asked this question from him.
That must have been
So
quite harsh.
yeah,
The
so
feedback.
so I was honestly hurt, and we were
Okay.
quite mentally we were quite mentally depressed
Upset,
because
I can imagine.
we were upset because we went like 4,000, 6,000 miles from Sri Lanka just to participate for something. And when we hear that sort of feedback, so
Mm.
what he told me was, look here, your product is amazing and we love you guys. And I think you guys have done a great job. And I was quite mesmerized to hear the level that he has studied about the software we have done, the content. So
Right.
he pointed out to me that these are really good stuff that you have done. And I think there's no point of you telling about these good points because you have already done those things. I
Right.
think I gave you this very harsh feedback. So I know you guys are engineers, so you guys will figure out a way to fix it.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that was quite enlightening to me. And yeah, so I think like that, there were many experiences where we got uh, feedback about our product, maybe about our stuff and our business model and everything. So that helped us a lot. Yeah.
Right. I think amazing stuff there, Miguel. Amazing stuff. So really cultivating that growth mindset amongst yourselves as well as within the team kind of created like a exoskeleton that you all could essentially take in the positive input from whatever feedback and drown out the noise essentially. So I think that's an amazing example, especially how that experience based on that conference in Japan. That's an amazing example for any entrepreneur there, Miguel. Amazing example there. Thank you for sharing that, because really, because they say like in any situation there's something good that can be taken out of it, given that we look through the right lens. So it's really amazing to hear that how that as a team collectively you all created that mindset and sort of that camaraderie and environment that could essentially, you're always looking to improve. So that's great to hear as well. So on that note, Migara, I would like to kind of shift gears here to kind of understand that, coming back to that initial vision that you mentioned about making these types of tools accessible to everyone, to make it available, and of course at an affordable price as well. So recently, when I came across the Udemy course that you all had launched recently on, like, of course, like the website also has a lot of like packed with resources on how MagicBit could be used, and of course we have the Udemy course as well. So walk us through how the resources that y'all are making available, some of course completely free of charge, really aligns with what y'all are trying to do, and of course how different people across the world could where they should look in order to access these tools.
So when we are creating this hardware platform and everything, and since the start, we also relied on some open source software to initially develop our stuff and everything. So And because of that reason, we published everything, our software, mobile apps, and everything free of charge for anyone to use. And one of the as I mentioned earlier, our team. So we had this vision where we can have free stuff available for any student to learn without an investment. So if they're interested to
Yeah.
go a further step, they can purchase certain stuff, our hardware. It could be our hardware, or it could be a subscription for our cloud platform. Likewise,
Yeah.
and they can invest some money and go to the next stage. But I think to start off, we wanted to remove that barrier,
Yeah.
and that's why we had this vision of sharing everything free of charge. And even right now, in our website in magicbit.cc, under the learn section, there are resources available under different programming languages, and
Right.
those are categorized in different formats, so the students can follow up the certain activities.
Right.
And everything is basically made in such a way where they can learn by doing certain activities, but
Right.
not learning the theory and doing the practical,
Correct.
such as the traditional education path. On the other hand, one other thing that we did was making our platform, our MagicBit, and any other thing that we are doing, especially our hardware,
Right.
it's cross compatible even with the other stuff available in the market.
Yeah.
So basically, a student can simply Google search, find any project, and they can try it out with MagicBit.
Right.
So that
Right.
is one of the things that we had in our mind from starting from the initial phase, because we believe that that sort of free content and free access to resource should be available to everyone if we want to make everyone an innovator or share this knowledge in the community. So I
Right.
think, and even in our website, magicbit.cc, and also we are making some video content and everything on YouTube channel. We are publishing them.
Right.
And apart from that, as a guided path, because there are so many students and parents, they were asking us for a guided learning path where they can have a continuation for their education. So
Right.
that's why we launched this course very recently with Udemy.
Yeah.
And there are several programs that we are doing with our partners in different countries as well. So
Right.
we facilitate certain education institutes to conduct courses in this area. So we are facilitating them mainly, and they are conducting courses. And sometimes we are conducting courses on behalf of organizations as well. So we are doing that sort of educational courses or programs, mainly as a guided path for the students who seek for that sort of a program. Other than that, all the content and everything is available for anyone who is willing to learn it themselves. And there's a popular term called DIY, or do it
Yeah.
yourself. So this is all part of the DIY movement. And so we are constantly updating the content and everything as free stuff as well.
Yeah. Superb stuff there, Migara, because I think that really now the world we're living in, everyone wants to try it by themselves. Like you said, sometimes they try this stuff before they're even taught in school. People start coding at a very young age now. So that's amazing that you all are making these tools available to people across all over the world. Like, of course, some of them free of charge for them to get a start. And of course, if they want to go into more details, more in-depth resources also being made available. So it kind of encapsulates everything. Like we all have the hardware, and I believe you all have a mobile app as well, right?
Yes, we have a mobile app. As of now, it's available for Android devices only, but we are currently working on an iOS version as well.
Got it. So I believe it's incorporated along with the device, right?
Yes, yes,
Got
yes.
it. So, like I said, it's good that we basically have like a full, uh, almost like all things in place where the user could use the entire components, be it the hardware, the software, everything in place to like start that learning journey without any barriers, and of course at a very reasonable price as well. So, on a final note, Migar, now say uh, you if you were to write a letter to yourself, assuming that say uh, the future you would have read it, or say the younger you would have read it, what kind of letter would you write to, say, the 16-year-old Migara, perhaps the 25-year-old Migara, and say the 35-year-old Migara? Say that you were like quite, basically say you lived your life, and if you were to offer some words of advice to the 16-year-old Migara, the 25-year-old Migara, and the 35-year-old Migara, what would that advice be, Migara?
Honestly, if I can send a message to younger myself, that think that message would be definitely to maybe find the purpose of our life much more quicker by creating value for the society. Because I believe that as an individual, we have to figure out that what we really want to do with our life, right? So when we are studying, sometimes we think, right, becoming an engineer or a doctor or a professional in a certain area. So that's what we have to do with our life, and that's it, and all the things are sorted. I think to completing a qualification and becoming a professional or doing that sort of thing is not the end. And I think finding the or using your capabilities to create value in the society, in the community, and maybe create something to pass on to the next generation. I think that is the whole purpose of humanity, and that is the purpose of living. I think if I could have understood it quicker, I think then we would have been working on certain ideas that we had earlier to maybe convert them into sustainable business models where we can solve certain problems in the world. I think that's what we all have to do. And that is the whole purpose of all this education, learning, and all this. And that's my personal belief. And I think that would have been the advice that I would give to myself at a younger age, definitely.
Yeah, amazing stuff there, Mega. And then if you had to write a letter to yourself, to the future you, to read, say 10 years time, 20 years time, what would you want your future you to see in that letter? I know it's a tough one.
I think that's a tough question, which I don't think about much. But I think maybe I think if I can ask a question from myself, I think that question would be something like, how many lives have you changed now? Something like that. I think it's all about taking the knowledge to the community, and maybe when we are developing a business, providing more job opportunities to others, and maybe creating future innovators who will again come up with future businesses and all, and creating this whole value chain is what we are really engaged in and what we really like. So I think the question that I would be asking myself, that is what, at least what I believe right now. So I think the question that I would be asking myself would be, how many lives have you changed by thinking like that?
I think that's a very, very noble question to ask indeed. And I feel that it kind of aligns with all what we have discussed today. And of course, the values that MagicBit is ingrained in with as well. So that's quite hard. It feels quite good to even hear that people like yourselves are putting that in front of whatever y'all are doing. So that's amazing to hear, Migara. And while I wish MagicBit all the success, and of course yourself as well, and I'm really looking forward to see more entrepreneurs like yourself coming out of Sri Lanka, what would be your final closing remarks to all aspiring entrepreneurs from across the world, Migara? Because I'm sure there might be people who are looking up to you right now as you speak, and you may not even be knowing that. What is your final message to everyone else out there, Migara?
I think my final message to everyone is I believe that there are so many problems that we are facing in the world right now, like it could be climate change, it could be poverty, it could be environmental pollution or any other thing, right? So, but I think uh, if we can have new innovations or innovative ideas and work on them, we can solve each and every those problems. And I think innovation is the only way out of these any of these problems. So I think it's a matter of time where we find a way to solve these problems. So my uh, humble request to anyone would be, try your best and let's try to solve some of these problems. And who knows, maybe a byproduct of your effort would be creating a unicorn one day, right? So I think that sort of stuff even can save few countries like Sri Lanka coming out of tough economic conditions, right?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, so that will be my humble request: work on creating new innovations and working on new ideas to solve problems in the world. So where, as a byproduct, we can change the lives and the world one day.
Yeah, there you go. To all innovators out there, listen to that twice. Listen to that twice. Amazing stuff, Migara. I really hope that MagicBit takes you and the team take MagicBit to the stratosphere, and really looking
Thank you.
forward to those next steps, Migara. And
Thank you.
while I wish you all the best, it was an absolute pleasure really talking to you. Really enjoyed it, and I hope everyone else also finds this just as much as useful and resourceful, and most importantly, inspiring, just as much as I did. So all the best, Migara.
Thank you. And thank you for the invitation and having this chat today. I really enjoyed, and thank you for asking some good questions. I think it might be helpful for others as well, sharing the journey that we went through. And I wish you all the best with your future work as well.
Right. Thanks, Migara. Take care. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and learned from this discussion just as much as I did. If you have not done so already, I really appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel below and do like the video if you feel that you found it quite useful. So until next time,